Hello, Freight Masters. So, question, is Unicef getting into freight brokering? Quick answer, no. No, they are not. Do you know why? Because they are, ding, 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 a charity. Freight brokers are not a charity. They are in business just like carriers, just like shippers, right? Now, there's all kinds of, comments and things, floating around Facebook. I've gotten phone calls. What's going on with the freight rates? What's going on with the freight rates? Well, if you paid attention to the data, right, the analytics, you would kind of know what the future holds, right? And while it's not, written in stone, because anything could happen, we could have a sudden uptick in the economy or something. But you start seeing companies like we saw this past week, I believe it was, Bed Bath & Beyond is shutting down, right? The produce season is not kicking off like it has historically. Those are just a couple of examples, but it's a supply and demand issue, right? Now, are there shippers out there that are still paying better? Yeah, there are. Are there brokers taking advantage of that and making huge margins? Yeah, they are. Do you know why? Because they are in business, right? They have bills to pay just like everybody else. And you could say, oh, well, they only have a computer and a phone. Get the hell out of here. You think they don't have a mortgage or rent, light bill, gas bill, food, just like everybody else, right? When the freight market is up and carriers are happy, they don't care how much the broker's making. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys are welcome to chime in, but they don't care. It's only when the freight market is down, which we've talked about this in past videos. There's always an ebb and a flow, right? Market's up, market's down, for whatever reason. It happens. Historically, it's averages about every 3 years. Okay. Now, I don't know if some of this, no cheap freight, man, is from the new guys or what. But if you know what your bottom line is, and that rate is less than your bottom line, don't haul it. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. Okay? I know you're all pissed off. You want to kick ass, but the simple fact of the matter is nobody's forcing you, right? Everybody's trying to make a dollar. You guys, if you have any feedback on any of this or want to chime in, like I said, feel free. We've got incoming calls. Now, something else I want to talk about is I posted, right, when I build a new relationship with a good shipper, right, when they're a good shipper and I'm looking for additional capacity, I typically will post it in our group first. This negativity of how low did you have to bid that to get that freight? Come on. This is supposed to be a positive group, right? We're all supposed to network and help each other and, help each other be more profitable. You do that kind of crap, you don't. All right? Just a simple fact. I'm not going to deal with the negativity on that. So, but yeah, UNICEF is not getting into the freight brokerage. Like I said, but this always happens, right? Whenever market's down, there's always somebody out there, and I think we all know who it is. Oh, let's protest. And if you can't get there, go to DAT and protest outside their building. They're a software company, you bumbling. Oh, it boggles my mind, the logic. And I understand that people's emotions run high, right? Probably would for me too if I was a carrier right now, especially if I was a new carrier. Truck payment, trailer payment, not to mention all your personal expenses and everything. I get it, but this is business. This isn't charity. The freight industry can be a very lucrative one, but you have to, and everybody should know by now, right? If you've been in the industry for any length of time, the spot market, the loads that you see on the load board are the leftovers, right? The leftovers. The high paying freight is all of your contract dedicated stuff. And in the past year, even on my dedicated contract stuff, I had shippers badgering me for better freight rates, right? Even though we were under contract, they switched everything up. They added more trucks to their own fleet, and eventually they pulled one of my lanes from me, right? Didn't just screw me, it screwed my long-term carrier that I had been working with, and the guys were phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Something else I want to mention is service failures. You can't whine about freight rates and all the hesitation about working, with a broker or a shipper when, for example, this happened to me recently. Booked a load with a carrier. He named his rate. He said, "This is what I got to have." Yes, sir. Let me just double check, make sure that's okay. If not, I'm sure we were probably going to be pretty close and I would cover the difference, right? He booked the load on a Wednesday. The load picked up Thursday. Showed up at the shipper, picked up the load. It was a power-only load. And then ran down the road, I think it was like 3 miles down the road to the truck stop, and called me and asked me for a fuel advance. We don't offer fuel advance. And if he'd have read his rate confirmation, and we're going to get into that too, he would have seen on there that we do not offer fuel advances. Part of the reason we did that is because of all the scamming and the double brokering and all the crap that is out there, because they'll collect that and they go, they got you for a few $100. Now imagine that just running rampant. It would kill us, right? If we just offered fuel advances to everybody. So what ended up happening? He took the load back to the shipper. And of course that pissed my customer off, right? I inevitably ended up having a backup truck, paid them the same rate, but it caused a bit of a snafu there, right? Check calls. Okay. Now I'm not saying that, and I understand that some brokers kind of take this, and I know a few of them, and I'm sure you know who they are, and it's probably happened to you. This typically happens with the big box brokerages, right? Is that they'll hit you with the tracking, and then they're going to light you up about every 30 minutes, right? Or every hour. Well, if they have tracking, there's no need for that, but it happens anyway. But when I give you the benefit of the doubt, maybe I've got tracking on you, maybe I don't. But if I email your dispatcher or I call you and say, hey, just need an update, just a quick one, that's it, or check in with me if you're going to be late or something, give me a heads up. Yeah, no problem. You know how many times that happens? Big goose egg. None. But yet they want pie in the sky rates. And I don't mean that just with the market being down. I mean, even if the market was good, they wanted pie in the sky rates. But yet they can't perform their end, They can't answer the phone. In fact, I had one dispatcher. I called him. He booked the load with me on a Monday. Load picked up on Thursday. Or no, booked the load with me on Wednesday. Load picked up on Friday. Checked in with him on Monday, and his phone was disconnected, right? And I go through all my due diligence, I vet my carriers and everything. I don't know if it was a new driver, a new, dispatch, working for this carrier or what, but it was, once again, it created a big snafu. And that's something else. If you were paying attention to the analytics and things, you would know that there are more and more service failures from carriers happening, and shippers are responding to that. How do you think they're responding to it? By driving rates down, right? You guys have heard me say before, or maybe you haven't, maybe you're new. One of my customers, same one that pulled one of my dedicated lanes from me because they're cheap and they're a multi-billion-dollar a year company, offered me a load out of Indy. Market rate at the time was 4,200, I think, on average. A fairly decent rate. It was going into kind of a nowhere area, but my driver, I had a couple of drivers that go out that way because they've got freight that kicks them back out that pays halfway decent. Now, on that $4,200 lane, which I should have been able to have provided to my carrier, their rate to me as a broker was $3,000, right? That's a $1,200 difference. So what does the carrier think when I'm getting $3 on a $4,200 lane, and then I've got to try to make money on that, right? Even if I kept $300, 10%. So now we're at $2,700 on a $4,200 lane. That driver automatically assumes I'm making $1,500 on this. I'm making, almost 40% roughly. I don't know. I can't math today. It's garbage. And all of this other misinformation about looking at the contract rate versus the broker to carrier spot rate on the load board, and there's a difference, right? It's apples and oranges. So some carriers look at that and they go, oh, well, brokers are getting paid this much, but they're only paying us this much. That's not how that works, Junior. That's not how this works. Unfortunately, somebody didn't have the time nor the crayons to explain it to you, but you need to educate yourself. The better educated you are about how the entire process works, right, the better. I've even seen posts and comments about, oh yeah, they're taking 60%. I saw, they're hiring agents and paying them 60%. Yeah, of the gross profit. If the gross profit on a load is $100, the agent gets 60, not 60% of the line haul. Right? You guys got any thoughts on this? Am I way off base? I've been doing this for too long, right? I know what's up. I don't know. Maybe y'all are mad at me for waking you up on a Saturday. But let me hear your guys' thoughts. Come on. I see some of you in there. Just astounds me, and I get it. Like I said, I think in large part, a lot of it is emotion, and this happens whether you know it or not. Typically, when the market rate is down, brokers' margins go up, and everybody's margins are different, right? And everybody wants transparency. How much is that broker making? How much is that broker making? Well, could brokers do that to carriers when the market rate is up or at any time? How much profit are you making on this? What are your costs? Could we do that to you? Oh no, that's too much. We feel like you're making too much money on this load. We need to make our margin. You need to make a certain margin, and then we kick the rest back to the shipper. How would that fly? Can you go into a restaurant or Walmart, ask them what their wholesale costs were? What are they, what are they making? What are their margins on a product? It makes no sense. This is a free market, right? But everybody wants to stick their nose where it don't really belong. What I can tell you about the future of the freight market is that, again, unless we get a sudden uptick in the economy and things start kind of booming, at least for a little while, and you guys have probably already started to see this happen. I know I have. You look at like some of the trucks for sale, trailers for sale, whether it's auction sites or whatever, excuse me. There's a lot more of them available, and it's going to continue to happen. Volumes are down, right? You've got all these independent dispatchers out there running around. Oh, I'm going to make you money. I'm going to make you money. And they're going to blow fairy dust up your patootie and promise you unicorns and rainbows, and it's just not going to happen. That's another thing, not to get sidetracked, but does anybody else, correct me if I'm wrong, has anybody else noticed that all these independent dispatch services that advertise, they all sound the same? Like they all took the same dispatcher training course, like literally word for word. I don't know. I don't really care for independent dispatchers, but they're being regulated now. So where was I? I got off on that little tangent for a moment. If you guys have any questions about anything that I'm not talking about, even if it's unrelated, by all means, let me know. If you guys are looking for freight sales consultation, reach out to me. We are offering that now, as well as freight broker training. So I should have left a link in the description, but I didn't. Perhaps I will after this video. But all kinds of resources, truggersresource.com. If you guys are looking for factoring or a TMS or anything. I sounded really enthused about that, didn't I? But you guys are quiet. Nobody wants to say howdy to me today. That's okay. But you've got to establish relationships to survive, right? This is something I've been preaching for years. Doesn't matter whether you're a broker or a carrier or a shipper, which right now shippers give a damn about relationships. They're only looking at the bottom line, right? And if you guys have been paying attention to the analytics and everything, you would know this. They don't care, and they're putting pressure on brokers to keep rates down. So I know it's easy to blame brokers because we're the ones that carriers typically deal with, more directly than, with direct shippers. But it's just the truth. It's a fact of the matter. But anyway, as I was saying, two things are going to happen. Either we're going to have a sudden loss of capacity, right? Which this really kind of sucks because I don't ever want to see anybody fail. You might be mad at me for some of this information, but it's fact, okay? But again, I'm everybody's biggest cheerleader, or at least I try to be. And it doesn't matter whether you're a broker or a carrier, I'm rooting for you. But two things are going to have to happen unless we get that sudden uptick in the economy, is that we will continually slowly lose capacity throughout the rest of the year, or we'll have a sudden loss of capacity, right? That's the only way things are going to turn around. And as of right now, we're probably looking at spring of next year, right? 2024. I know some people are saying, oh, no, it's going to come back. It's going to come back. It's going to pick up. No. At least that's not what the data is showing us. That's not what we're seeing, kind of boots on the ground sort of thing. You know, brokers see when shippers aren't sending over as much freight. And I know for us, when you start getting more an exorbitant amount of calls from places like Landstar, you know, that want to co-broker loads, that's typically a sign that, you know, their volumes are down from their direct shippers as well. But yeah, kind of going back, I had another thought on this. That those loads that I was posting in the group, you know, because I'm looking to build new relationships with carriers, and could make you, you know, profitable, put you in the black on these, right? Crap, I lost my train of thought on that. I had two different things I was thinking about. But yeah, those power only loads, if you're a power only carrier, reach out to me. Oh, I remember what it was. I'm not the only broker that works these, right? And I look and see what the other brokers are posting it for. So if my customer is paying $12.50, some of these brokers are posting it for like $300 to $500. Guess what? I offer more than that. Why? Because I want to work with you. If you're a good carrier, I want to work with you. If you're a garbage carrier, don't bother. But if you're a good carrier and you're running power only, reach out to me. Because I pay more. And of those brokers that are posting those same loads at such low rates, they are the big box brokers, right? You guys always complain about the big box brokers. Oh, 3-letter word screwed me again. What do you mean again? You didn't learn your lesson the first time? Right? Isn't that the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result? Build relationships with somebody else. They always fight me on detention. I don't ever get layover. Stop working with them. That's another thing. Read your confirmations. Read your setup agreements. Don't just blanket sign that stuff. I've got buddies of mine that are truck drivers, and I've talked about this before. Hey Tim, what do I do? This broker doesn't want to pay me detention or layover or something. And I said, well, what do you mean? What does your rate confirmation say? I don't know. Well, what does your setup paperwork say? I don't know. Come on, man. Would you get into real estate without reading a contract or any other business? No. How about a loan agreement when you bought your truck or your trailer? Come on. We can't just sit back and whine about things. We've got to educate ourselves, right? Build relationships, network. read your paperwork, your contracts, because you can't whine about it after the fact. Point the finger at somebody else for something that you didn't do, right? We got to put our big boy, big girl pants on, right? To start taking responsibility for that. Anywho, I'm going to let y'all go. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. As always, be kind to one another. Remember, Unicef is not getting into the freight brokerage. Okay? All right. Bye-bye now.